Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake continues. We welcome into the Zoom room rugby coach Megan Degenfelder. I can't believe that.
Well, I missed practice last night, Jake.
Did you really?
Yep, I was slacking as a coach.
For real? Like, that's a violent sport. We'll talk about that because it sort of definitely factors into you and who you are and kind of in the news of the day. I want to start with, though, Superintendent, with this story today, news today, that there was maybe some rumor, some inkling that there would be the elimination of the U.S. Department of Education. And you told Cowboy State Daily as far back as early last month that that'd be all right with you. You're all for that. And it seems we're getting there by default. Trump fired like half the department. And I think the intent is to kind of just gut it and get rid of it. What's happening there? And why would you, as Superintendent of Public Instruction for Wyoming, like to see the elimination of the U.S. Department of Education?
Well, you're right, Jake. From day one, I've been supportive of this idea, this promise that President Trump has given us that he would dismantle the U.S. Department of Education. Just yesterday, they announced a reduction in force of nearly 50% of employees at the department. They did say that they're going to continue on with all statutory obligations and those formula funds for, special education, for Pell Grants, those type of things. They can't fully gut the entire agency without congressional approval, but they're well on their way with this cut. And, for me, it's all about getting more money quicker to the states rather than dealing with, the bureaucracy that exists at the federal agency. So I think it's exciting. It puts Wyoming more in the driver's seat and gives us more authority over our education.
Okay, so this is okay for Wyoming, probably better. And yes, until congressional approval, I guess this is the preemptive strike, the shot across the bow. This is a way to start to get to it, is just send everybody home or half of them home. Interesting. All right, let's shift gears from that to the recently concluded 68th session, the legislative session. There were several bills concerning education. Some passed, some didn't. Let's start with House Bill 46, Homeschool Freedom Act. As someone who is the superintendent of public instruction, are you anti-homeschooling? Don't you want kids in a classroom, or do you want what's best for a kid is education-wise? What's going on with homeschooling? Has it become easier?
So, in my position, I really take seriously the role of ensuring that every child is educated, that we have an educated citizenry. And for me, that includes, as much choice as possible for families to decide what best meets their students' needs. And, parents have a constitutional fundamental right to direct their child's education. And so whether that be within the public system or within the private system, homeschooling, you name it, I'm here to support them. And so was very supportive of that bill. All it did was really remove just unnecessary bureaucracy where homeschool parents had to submit their materials, go through this whole red tape process with districts when they were receiving no state dollars to do it.
Right. They had to declare their curriculum and clear everything with the school district. So that looks good. House Bill 46. What else happened? And some things that I don't think we got the cell phone. Kids are going to still be on their cell phone. Senate File 21 failed, I think.
It did. That was one that I was supportive of. A lot of districts do have policies regarding cell phone use during instructional time. So that's good. But, I think it leads us to an even greater discussion and a topic that I've brought up as a potential interim topic to the committee. And that's just around behavioral issues with students, looking at discipline reform in our state. We've seen several states that have passed things like Teachers' Bill of Rights that include things like a ban on cell phones, but it's broader than that. It's really addressing how we discipline students. And so I'm really excited to have a more holistic conversation about that in the interim.
Yeah, I like that because the cell phone's just, it's just a thing. If it's not a cell phone, it's something else. There's a bigger issue. It's not all the cell phone's problem. We got to discuss a lot of things when it comes to how kids are educated. And I meant to say when we were talking about homeschooling numbers are up, are they not? I mean, we saw that kind of blow up during COVID, but the amount of parents that are choosing to homeschool, that it's been more than ever in Wyoming.
We do. We've seen increases in all different choices of education in Wyoming. And so I think that just shows that that's what our people want. That's what the people of Wyoming, the parents of Wyoming want. And so as elected officials, as government agencies, that's our duty is to provide what they want. And that's exactly what we're going to do.
Excuse my ignorance. You've forgotten more about education in Wyoming than I'll ever know. But House Enrolled Act 52, is that the one where we're talking about private schools and possibly the $7,000 per kid private schools? What happened there, and is that good?
So that was House Bill 199, and that was creating a universal education savings account. So of course, we had previously passed the education savings account last year, but it was really limited, and the governor line item vetoed most of the income levels, and so it was really just for our very lowest income. This bill, it creates universal opportunity for parents to be able to access that. I think it's a great thing. I think it allows parents again to have more opportunity for choices, but it still includes a degree of accountability there for receiving taxpayer dollars. And so what that means is parents, they don't get just a $7,000 check in the mail. What that means is they use our marketplace that we house at the Department of Education, and they get those $7,000 to use to provide for their child's education, whether it's homeschool curriculums, a private school tuition, and it really just again provides more choices for parents, and also includes a pre-K provision as well.
I want to one day, and we're going to have to make this regular. We're going to have to keep on meeting like this, I think, because there's so many topics regarding education that I want to get to, including charter schools, private schools, and how they fit into the scene, how they fit into the picture, and especially career and technical education. That's been a big thing. You're pushing hard on that, the CTE. It doesn't always have to be high school, a stepping stone to college. There may be something else, and CTE could help that. What are you doing on that? The strategic importance of career and technical education.
Well, this has been a really big one for me, and we've made a lot of strides in the last 2 years. This legislative session in particular, we had a couple of bills that really supported CTE. One was just creating more efficiencies within grant programs that they receive, front loading some of those funds that just weren't really usable because it was so low and had to be spread out over time. And then the second one is we actually passed a bill that takes CTE out of the funding model, that block grant where districts just get all of their money and then can allocate, however they want. And so what that does is it ensures that districts are spending the dollars that were meant for CTE on CTE. And so that was really showing the support of those programs, and I think will be a great thing.
Senate File 98. I think this did not pass. For me, Superintendent, and by the way, we're talking with Superintendent Megan Degenfelder, Superintendent of Public Instruction. For me, I am so apolitical, and I don't care for politics, and I hate when politics are in everything, and I wonder why they're in school choices. I wonder why you run for election on with a political party. But certainly Senate File 98, I don't know if I need my school board trustees to have a party affiliation. Where are you on this, and what happened with the Senate file?
You're right. It did not ultimately pass, but I think is a great discussion to have, and one that I supported. Unfortunately, politics is everywhere, and education is no exception. And what we've seen over the last couple of decades is really the left has infiltrated things like curriculum, education programs, and so my role, I think, is to remove politics from the classroom. There should not be any of that in the classroom. But unfortunately, when we talk about our leaders, we want to make sure that they represent our values. And I think that when you look down ticket like that, and people aren't maybe doing their homework as well, at least they can have a measure of if those representatives, hold their values.
Yeah, it is a good ballpark measure if you aren't super informed on the issues and on the candidates. Yeah, I can see that. One other thing that kind of gets off the education a little bit. I know you weighed in on, and until I knew the rugby connection, I was wondering what's the passion there. But the story from Leo Wolfson all the way back in January. Degenfelder says trans rules, school choice among top priorities for legislation. The whole transgender and who can use whose bathroom, and especially when it comes to sports, and certainly when it comes to contact sports like rugby, you being rugby coach, I think of somebody, transitioning or identifying as a female, and there's some big New Zealand bruiser who doing the haka and then trying to break girls in half. Like, come on, that's not even fair. It's about safety.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate that, because I think we need to start calling it what it is. And it's about protecting girls for safety and opportunity. I get so tired of the left accusing this of a movement of bigotry. And it's just not. It's about protecting girls and women. And as you say, as a university rugby coach, that's arguably the most contact sport that exists. And so this bill that has passed, that includes higher levels, university, community colleges, at that level, that directly impacts, my role as a coach, because, in club rugby, anyone can join. We're a Division I club sport. But this allows me to be able to protect my girls if someone were to try to join the team on a day that we're tackling. And so I'm really proud of our efforts in that. And I think that we've come a long way.
It might look a little like rugby tonight because the Cowgirls play a physical game of basketball, but how about those girls? We're rooting for them tonight. CBS, it's the Mountain West Conference Championship, and what a season.
I know. It's been really fun to watch, from Air Force and Fresno State, and now we hope they take the whole thing.
Go get them, Cowgirls. All right, Superintendent, thanks so much for being on. We're working behind the scenes. Maybe you're aware, maybe not, of having you regular on the show, because there's a lot of things we still have to get to. But I appreciate you getting on.
Yep, education's so important. There's so many topics, and so it's important that folks around the state are aware and involved.
Later today, you'll be interviewed by a radio station who this show has just syndicated with. We'll be on that radio station, this show in a replay beginning at 10. So there'll be more Megan Degenfelder on KJAX. Tell Del Rey I said hi, and enjoy your day in Jackson.
I will. Thanks so much.
You bet. Megan Degenfelder, that's Superintendent of Public Instruction. So great to have her on. We got to take